So you're telling me that if I take this picture and make it the wallpaper on my phone, it's going to turn it into a doorstop, right? I'm Woody Huffines. I own the Nerds to Go in McKinney and Frisco, Texas, and this is Tech for the Untechnical. And yes, there is a wallpaper picture out there that if you put it on your Android phone, there's a pretty good chance you're going to brick your phone by putting a wallpaper up. How in the heck can that happen? Well, there's a couple of good videos out there that are much more technical than what I would do in the Tech for the Untechnical discussion, but basically it works this way. If you take all the possible colors that the human eye can see, it's called a color space. And the color space is a really big area. But when you try to map that color space onto a digital representation, you take points on it and you say, okay, we got red, green, and blue. It's an RGB color space. And we'll set different values for the red, green, and blue. And when we mix them together, it'll yield that color. So the color spaces started out as an RGB color space and then an sRGB color space. And the sRGB color space was a little bit bigger than the RGB color space. And don't even get me started on this when it comes to photography and trying to get a printer to print the colors that you want because they get out of range. It's just, anyway, the sRGB color space is a little bit bigger than the RGB color space. And then there's the Adobe RGB, which is bigger still. Then there's the extended Adobe RGB, which is even bigger still. And then there's ProPhoto sRGB, which covers like 80 or 90% of the visible colors that you can see. The problem is most web applications, most web browsers, most phones deal in the sRGB color space. And that's a representation, a digital representation of colors. It's pretty straightforward. The problem is, in this case, in this image, and you can look it up online, or I'll post it here, there is one pixel in this great big picture that, because of the way Google engineers did some rounding to convert one color space to another color space, causes the phone to brick. Now, if you take that same picture and you were to open it in an application and the application couldn't transfer it, the application had just shut down. Okay? Problem is, when you take that picture and you try to make it the wallpaper is one of the first things that boots on the phone. So when you turn your phone on and it tries to render or represent or show that image as the wallpaper, it crashes because there's one pixel in this image that's 2500 by 1700. It's a big number of pixels. And there's just one that is out of gamut for the color space. And it does the math wrong, and it causes the phone to get into a boot loop because it's trying to display a picture that it doesn't know how to display because the math is done wrong. Okay, so why am I talking about that? Well, there's another story in the news today that doesn't have to do with your phone bricking because of wallpaper, but another indication that there's a lot of applications in the Android or the Google Play store that are malicious. There's malware, and you read down in the article and it's really, there's a whole bunch of Android apps there that are malicious, and the Android apps out there that are malicious, a lot of them get installed because you go to someplace other than the Google Play Store. But the Google Play Store continues to have problems with apps that are malware. Why is that? Well, think about the fact that we just talked about that a single pixel in an image that's really big can cause the phone to have a problem because of one rounding error in some code embedded in the software generation, the software that does image generation. That's the problem, and that's the reason that cell phones are so difficult to secure, because cell phones have a lot more stuff going on. A computer's got a lot of stuff going on. A cell phone even has more. If I've got a computer that we're trying to fix in the shop and it's got a virus on it or a piece of malware, that malware scanner can scan the computer in its static running state and say, yep, it's got a malware. Nope, it doesn't, because that computer pretty much sits in one place. Think about this. The black hats, the bad guys, have figured out that there's a whole lot more stuff going on with a cell phone. Think about the differences between your cell phone and your computer. Your computer probably doesn't have a GPS nav system on it. Your computer probably doesn't have a barometric pressure sensor on it, and a magnetometer, and a accelerometer, and a temperature sensor, and there's a lot of sensors that are on a cell phone that are built into that the cell phone uses for weather apps and for locating you and all kind of stuff. Malware, especially on cell phones, is it won't install until one of those sensors triggers the install. For example, I put malware on your phone, and my malware won't run unless the temperature sensor on the phone gets above 90 degrees. So if you install it on your phone in the middle of the wintertime, malware won't run. And then 6 months later, you're out by the pool, the phone gets to 90 degrees, the malware runs and installs itself, which is the problem that they're having on the Google Play Store. Because they scan the code for malware, but the malware won't trigger unless the barometric pressure is such and such, or the temperature of the phone is thus and so, or you're traveling 70 miles an hour. There's any kind of number of ways they can look at the sensors on the phone and trigger the malware by the sensors. So this is why this phone stuff is hard. So here's what I'm telling you. Don't install pictures that aren't pictures that you took or pictures that you download directly from a reputable download site where that does pictures, because you might get a bricked phone by just putting the wrong picture on it that's trying to do an sRGB or ProPhoto sRGB color rendering until Google gets the code fixed, and then it'll be okay. Don't install things for your phone that don't come from the Google Play Store. Google Play Store is still the most secure place to do it. These third-party app things, not so much. And your phone is set by default, if you have an Android phone, not to allow you to install those things. So you have to go disable the protection to get you there. So can I send a picture to your phone that if you set it as wallpaper will brick your phone? Yes, I can. Why? Because this phone stuff has gotten really complex, because the complexity of the phone has risen and gotten a lot more complex as we've asked our phones to do more things. That's Tech for the Untechnical. I'm Woody Huffines. I own the Nerds to Go in McKinney and Frisco, Texas. Hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, ring the notification bell, and give me a comment. Has your phone ever been bricked or got malware on it? We'd like to hear from you.